our next speaker. Okay, our next speaker will be me because we have a replacement, and I hope you will enjoy this little talk about storytelling and adaptation. Before we begin, I just was thinking what story to bring up in the beginning of the talk, and I remembered about a time when I was at a coffee shop. It's called Shokoladnitsa. It's somewhere in Moscow. And I saw a student in, t-shirt, very formally looking with his backpack. He was just, very anxious, standing at this coffee counter. And I was just picking up my coffee. So I was just witnessing this dialogue without any intention. And he was there standing and saying, "Oh, I'm your new employee. What do I do?" And then there's this guy over the counter. He's like, he has the bags under his eyes, like with coffee, I presume. And he's like, "Oh yeah, you're a new guy. Maria, who is responsible for new guys? Can you do something?" And I'm like, okay, this is the moment his adaptation is really beginning. Not the official day of the onboarding, right now. And I was insanely influenced by this moment because for me it showed that whatever I tell you, there's no way we can control everything we do in terms of adaptation. But let's try at least. So, first of all, I wanted to ask you, what does usually adaptation process consist of? But I thought that it's not a good question to ask. So instead, I want you to reflect and to write into the chat, what inner questions of the employee that was just hired can we usually answer with adaptation? For example, what's my role in the organization? That's an inner question in his head. So write the inner questions that an adaptation process usually answers. They can be basic, they can be difficult. What, where, when, what's happening, what am I doing? Okay. Who do I address if something goes wrong? Okay. What else? Oh, schedule, uniform, subordinates. Who is responsible for what? Who is the boss? Good. Who can help me? Okay. Oh, that's good. Tatiana, that's good. What can I break in terms of rules without any bad stuff happening to me? Okay, what do I need to do? What can be my hurt? Okay, okay. Those are good questions. Those are... Sergey, bravo. When's the lunchtime? Okay, that's it. Those are the usual questions. But as you remember, in the beginning of the conference, we were talking about that stories answer a deeper question, the question of why. And I would like to discuss 3 major why questions that exist in the head of the employee as soon as he becomes a new hire. And I would like to show them to you and to reflect on how might we answer these difficult questions. First one, why is it important to keep this company alive? I mean, seriously, not what we are doing here, but why is it important? So to keep this fire burning. And in that sense, we usually tell people about the things we do, the products we have, etc., and we present our company. And I'm sorry, usually we do that in terms of facts and chronology that we have. But you can see I've done this slide badly. It's colors are not in the place because I was doing it this lunch. So I wanted to ask you, do you share your company's story or chronology? Here's an idea, an example of the company called Accenture that has two ways of introducing a company. It will be with subtitles and in English. So let's watch this and discuss.
Hey, we're Accenture. We'd like to introduce ourselves. You may have seen our advertising or heard us mentioned by colleagues. Many organizations know us as one of the world's leading consulting, technology, and outsourcing companies, serving 96% of the Fortune Global 100. We've had a relationship with 99 of our top 100 clients for at least 5 years, and with 91 for 10 years or more. But that's just part of the story. So, what are we really all about? Put simply, we help organizations of all sizes assess how to maximize their performance to increase revenues and profitability in existing markets and identify new ones. We collaborate with clients.
It all began with some inside-the-box thinking. A very creative individual took one look at one very large box and saw the future.
I had just seen the millennium. I said, believe me, it's something that the firm has to get into. It's the coming thing. And if we miss it, we're going to miss the boat.
The idea was to use this new electronic gadgetry as a tool to better serve clients and help improve their performance. That's when Joe Glickoff helped lay the foundation for what has become our heritage. It began as a way to improve the efficiency of General Electric's payroll. From there, things spread quickly to other industries. The methodologies and computer systems originally designed to simply improve or speed business processes has over time led to revolutionary business consulting breakthroughs like just-in-time delivery, business integration, technology advances, and the redefinition of outsourcing. We continue to be known for our ability to innovate, to add value, to help our clients become high-performance businesses.
So what I absolutely love about this short video is that it has two sides to it. First one is clearly about facts, figures, numbers, etc. And the second one is about the story. So after listening to this video, which part, first or second, gives you more idea about this core question? Why is it important that this company keeps on thriving and living? First one or second one? There's a personality. Paula, the second advertisement adds a face. Thank you for your comment, right? I agree with you. And it's not that we don't need the first part. I'm stressing this point. It's not that we don't need it. We need it, but we need something extra, because outside of how good we are, there is this interesting and vibing and vibrating part of why it is important to keep us alive. And honestly, I believe that every company has its own why, and every person has its own why. And to find it, like this why can be like a guiding star, just a metaphor for Yanis, a guiding star. And to find the guiding star, we can look for not the big moments, but for small moments, for the sparkles in the corner of the eye of the people who are looking at the star with wonder. I will share with you one episode from my life, and I hope it will share how stories came to my life as, you know, something bigger than a tool. So I was personally working at the bank, and I didn't think about becoming a professional storyteller until one day the bank exploded, not physically, I mean. Me and 500 other people were out on the streets, and I didn't have a job. My son was 10 months old, and at the time, I didn't know what to do. I was immediately looking for my new job, and my friend Sasha, he said, I need a facilitator at the session. Come join me in Kazan. And I thought, okay, this is some money I can earn. And I flew to Kazan, and there was no storyteller needed, to be clear. I was just there to earn some money. That was just physical thing I needed at the time. And at the session, I met Sergey, who you are seeing right now on the screen. Sergey was an entrepreneur, and he was developing a project just like 100 other participants of the session I was working on. So Sergey had a project, and he had to present this project to the crowd so that these people get so engaged they would want to copy this project in their own region, because Russia is a big country, etc., etc. So first thing he was going for it was, so we have a project that educates entrepreneurs all over Russia, and we helped 400 people in past month and 40,000 people in the past 2 years, and we think that it's really important to develop entrepreneurship in Russia, blah, blah, blah. So naturally, you don't see any vibe there. But I see in his eyes that he's really flaming from the inside with this idea. So I come up to him in the coffee break, and without a script, I say, Sergey, can you share with me where and when did you think that your project is worth doing? He's like, that's not interesting. I was like, that is to me. So he shared this without any preparation. He said, well, I had two friends who I met at the conference. One was Sergey, with the same name that I had, and one was Rashid. I asked them how their business was doing, and Rashid told me that he opened the bank account and withdrew 80% of the bank account in cash from his, sole proprietor's cash, and his bank account got frozen because he didn't, he wasn't allowed to do that, but he didn't know that. So he couldn't operate for 1 month, 1 month's loss of profit. And my other friend, Sergey, told me that he opened a cafe and he got closed in 1.5 months because he failed to do some regulation. But all of that was because the people living in the same building with this cafe were very mad at this cafe shop. And when people are mad, business has no chance against the government. Because you just over-regulate people, and whatever you do, there's no way of you doing everything right because you don't know some stuff. And I said, so what? He said, well, it got me angry. I thought, those are good people. They are not stupid. They're really talented, but they cannot act right because they don't know some stuff. So I went to our Ministry of Economics. I took out a lot of data they had on how to lead business by the books, by the law. And I figured out they didn't have a knowledge base that was accessible for entrepreneurs because they were people who were working 24/7. They didn't have time to read through all of that paper. And I was like, I'm going to help them. I can change this. So he created a knowledge base called proverennybusiness.ru. It's something like getyourbusinesschecked.ru website. And he actually helps people who lead business get everything done. They have like courses there, and like 40,000 people are now certified and lead their business successfully. Sergey has opened 3 coffee shops, and Rashid has opened a bank account for his business for his mother-in-law, all according to the law, everything clear. No cash withdrawals, bigger cashback. The family is stronger now. Everyone wins. And I'm like, wow, have you ever told this to anyone? And he's like, no, why should I? And I'm like, Go tell it. So instead of doing the standard presentation, he goes up the stage and he's like delivering this talk. Everyone applauds. A year later, I know that Sergey has got an award because his project was in the top 10, and he got investments to develop in Russia. But at that moment, I was standing there near the wall and looking at him telling his story, and I saw people lighting up from inside. And I'm like, oh my God, I could do this without any money for the rest of my life, and I would feel completed. And basically, that's what we are doing right now. There is no money in this story, but there is this feeling that I have every time when people hear a story and they just change. And that moment really showed me what I'm about. Because everything I do is defined by why I do it. And as we often say, a business doesn't have a soul, but that's not true. A business is a group of people. So the soul has to be a soul of a group. And we have to find it. We have to come together and take our time to find why do we do the things we do together. Through analyzing these micro stories, we get to exactly right, Paolo. We get to the common purpose. Why are we doing this? And I've done it like a lot of times for different companies in Russia and abroad. And even like during pandemic, we've done these sessions on Zoom, and it still goes, wow, it feels like campfire every time when people start telling stories. Well, who am I telling this? You know how it feels, right? So that's the issue, and I wanted to give you as a gift this question that might lead you on a quest to find your memories of these joyful small moments. So right now I want you to just pause for a second. Breathe in, breathe out, and try to find the memory based on this question. It may come as a small moment, not a grandiose story, not an arc as in a movie, but as something small. But from that small moment, you can realize why is it worth doing the things you do. If you like that thought, give me some fire and we will be continuing. Just throw a log into our fire, I would say, and we will be moving forward. Okay, awesome. Next question. Why is it customary to act this way, not the other in here? Not how do we act, but why? And in that sense, I wanted to share with you a story that I heard at a manufacturing company, a logistics company, actually. So I showed them different slides with websites of the companies. You saw slides like this, like websites. If you've seen something like this, maybe in your company, do not call names, but put a plus in the chat if you saw something like this. Very engaging. So I share with them these slides, and they're like, oh no, that's boring, and I just skip and skip and skip, and then I show them the slide from their company, and they just like, oh no, that's boring too, and their leader is sitting there like, guys, it's our company, stop it, and they're like, ugh. So that was really a funny moment, and I'm like, okay, so can anyone tell me what happened in the 1990? And the leader goes, okay, so we had our investor and founder, Bakhtiyor, and Bakhtiyor was developing gas mines. So he was really good at it. And at one project where he was developing a gas mine, he did it so fast that the guys who were responsible for bringing the tube to the gas place where I'm sorry about that, to the place where the gas is extracted from the ground, they didn't catch up. And the government said, Bakhtiyor, you are doing such a great job. Why don't you also do the pipes that connect the gas station with the infrastructure? He's like, I don't have any experience there. They said, well, we trust you enough so that you can, as a manager, as leaders, create such a team of professionals, and we can fund it. So basically, he created a team, and this was his first project. We delayed it by 2 days, even though that was our first project ever. But since then, we've been working like this because our company is based on trust. And we've been trying to act like this to keep the trust alive. And I'm like, wow, that feels totally different. That feels totally different. And this gives us an idea of how should I act as an employee and why I should act this way. So instead of giving a chronology, you can extract small moments and give them as pieces that lead to this realization. Why should I act a certain way? And the next question is, why are we creating these specific products and services? Not what we are doing, but why. And in that sense, another example from a manufacturing company whose CEO told me this story. So they produce packaging for food, for drinks, etc., etc. And once he told me a story, he said, I was in Italy, and a fellow manufacturer on a factory that is, similar to ours, I realized that he installed an air cleaner that cleans the gases that they throw in the atmosphere. So I came up to him and asked, so why did you do that? There's no obligation, or is it? And this Italian guy said, no, there's not. I mean, yes, there are some laws, but not as strict as I lay on myself, because I at some point realized that I'm the only big manufacturing in this city, and I really pollute a lot of the air, and it doesn't feel right to me. So he came back, the CEO that you're seeing right now, he came back and told the story to his fellow workers, and they said, we don't have to do this. Russia doesn't have any regulations. And he said, yes, we do have to, because we are talking about ecology all the time, but we are not living ecology. And they actually were the first factory in Russia to install these kinds of air cleaners that were really expensive, and it took a lot of money out of them. But every time he tells a story, we understand what kinds of products they are looking for, and that they pay a price for ecology, and that is really a value because they pay a price for it. So what I wanted to share with you in the end is that we are not obliged to, we're not limited to sharing only stories. For example, at one of the projects that I led, we recreated the onboarding process with this question: how might we invite our new employees to learn, relive, and share our values? So we created a map that consisted of 5 key values of the company, and for each square, those are the behaviors, for each square we created several activities. So let me just give you an example of them. Synergy. I do my best to support cross-functional projects. What the new hires did in that spot of the onboarding process, they formed teams with people from different departments, and together they co-created a project. For example, there was an HR guy, an IT guy, and a finance guy, and they had to come up with something new based on their backgrounds. And somebody added their hobbies to it, their personal lives to it, and it felt like synergy. So they felt it. And then the leaders shared stories about how this happened actually in the company before and helped the company develop. So they shared that the projects they had really for business were born as synergy. Then they had this interesting process when they received a common process like ordering paper for your department, and they had to find ways to simplify it. And then, after they played this fun game, guys from Team Simplifiers came to them. There was a project office, and they were responsible for simplifying processes. And they told lots of stories about how a 60-stage process shrink down to 20 stages. And they realized, so that thing we played just now, that's just exactly what we're looking for here. Wow. Then we had games like they two teams had to design airplanes, but in the middle of the process, they switched. And the team that designed the airplane had to build the airplane designed by the other team. And then we had a great discussion about responsibility. What are the zones of responsibility? And we came to an idea that responsibility is not shared, it's multiplied between the teams. Then we had these fun examples where employees wrote vows, like never steal the food of your fellow employee, like funny ones. And then serious ones, like I will never ever stay silent if I see that I'm not good enough for the task. This is a great vow. And they wrote them down and signed it in the end. So this was a process like a game with living and sharing and playing the stories that really get them to feel these values and the culture. To conclude this part, I wanted to share with you some thoughts in the video. So first thought, you don't have to limit yourself to onboarding to share stories. For example, in this manufacturing company, we did a lot of interviews with the leaders, and then we crafted these stories into audio files. So people came up, scanned the QR code, and listened to the story. And as you can see, it's on the ground floor, in the cafeteria. People were sharing stories, and the bonfires were lit all around the company. And those were the stations where the values were relived by the employees. And I think that's a really simple technical decision, but every time people hear about it from me, they were like, oh my God, that's genius. I'm like, no, that's just technical stuff. You just need to answer the question, how can we share stories outside of onboarding? And one last thought, guys. There was a study carried out at one call center where 3 groups were going through a totally different onboarding process. One was the control group, so the process was regular. Another one was the group that had an extra hour when the employees listened to the company's story, met a star performer, and then received a hoodie with the company name and their name next to it in small letters. So that was the second group. And then there was the third group. They had the same program, but this last hour, they shared stories between each other. They shared moments of vulnerability. They told, they answered the question, if our company was a ship going to a long distance sail, what your single talent could we use to go beyond the horizon? They were exchanging moments from their past, and it seemed like a usual process. But 7 months later, this third group showed 250% more loyalty to the company than the control group, and 157% more loyalty to the company than the second group. The tricky part is that apart from this all, they had the hoodie, and even the smallest detail was different. The hoodie had their name in big letters, and then the company name. Because we're not Starbucks employee Ivan, we're Ivan, the Starbucks employee. It's totally different, but it changes everything. And I wanted to share with you a small video of a project where employees didn't just listen to the stories like I told you. They exchanged stories of values. And just, it will be no words, just sounds for a couple of minutes. So the small papers you saw there on the flip chart were the stories shared by employees from their personal life and from their first weeks of being an employee. And I hope at least, that those stories changed their loyalty to the company and to the group, because a company is not more than a group of people with a common purpose. I think that's it, and please let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, we will be just skipping to the next speaker. Oh yeah, Olga, it was written, the name was written in the last group that had an hour about the employee, not about the company. The second group had the company name in big letters. Oh, Michael, I'm glad you liked it. Thank you. So if there are any questions. Yes, Irina, please go for it. Oh, okay, I got it. My idea, okay. I'm actually going to ask you the same question in the chat of our conference. So I want to know your opinion on who came first, culture or story. We're going to do a poll. So, just a reminder, add to the chat. So I would say culture came first. I would say culture came first because culture is, story is something that shares a common way of doing things. Something like, if you touch a frying pan that's hot, you get a burn. That's a chain reaction, a feedback from the world. And the culture essentially is a lot of feedbacks strained together. If there's no culture, there are no stories about the feedback loops that exist in it. So I believe that the culture is there before any story, but I can be mistaken. Sergey is asking if people were, yes, they were telling both stories from their private life, not intimate, but private, and from their life in the company. Because if I ask you, Sergey, share with me a moment when you felt that you did the right thing, even though you lost a lot because you chose to do the right thing, that question would elicit moments from your life that can be from work or from private life, but they are connected to your values. And if I listen hard enough, I will hear your values in any kind of episode. So for a storyteller, I would say, well, for me as a storyteller, it doesn't really matter what plane you choose to talk about, personal or work. It's all the same. It's you. QR codes. Yes. So let me explain the mechanics here. We did interviews with leaders and mentors of the company ahead of time. Then we cut these interviews because people are not telling stories by the structure. They remember some stuff like, oh yes, half an hour ago I told the story and I forgot to tell you. So it's like we don't get the participants a half an hour recording. We craft the story out of an audio, but it's only the things the person said. And then we upload them to YouTube or corporate network, and people come into the workshop and scan the QR codes to listen to the stories. So that's a lot of pre-work, but it pays off big time. Tatiana, hope that clarified it for you. If there are any, you can just join the chat, and I'm there all of the time. So I'll just leave you with this question before we move to our next speaker. I can see Michael is already on the platform with us. So I'll just leave you with the question: how might we help our employees feel what is right to do, and why do we do the things we do? That question is essential because instead of thinking, what can we do to make them act a certain way, we program ourselves to think about our employees as people who have a free will and the choice. We let go of control, we give them the choice, and we are just left with star sky results and, amazing feats that they do in our teams if we let go of control. And I'm like the most experienced leader in the world to be talking to you like that, but I'm just sharing at my conference, so why not? I hope you liked it. And with that, I will be inviting our next speaker,